Hello and welcome back to another panel on Dragon Con Theater and Performing Arts Lovers Unofficial. I am Sarah Rose, the very tired stage manager. And today we are here to talk about the Nutcracker, the holiday classic. I don't think there's been a, a holiday season where I haven't either gone and seen it or watched it somewhere. So that being said, I would love if my panelists would introduce themselves. Jake, can you introduce yourself and tell me what's your earliest memory of seeing or experiencing the Nutcracker?
Sure. I'm Jay. I'm a dance teacher, stage manager, theater tech crew, fly rail op, etc. And I know my parents took me to see the Nutcracker when I was little, but I don't remember it at all. My first actual memory of the Nutcracker is taking my son to go see it when he was younger, and we went to the Atlanta Ballet's production of it. And that was so much fun. I watched him most of the show instead of what was happening on stage.
Oh,
But that's the first time I actually remember watching it.
all right. And Rachel, how about you?
Okay, hi, I'm Rachel. I am a retired ballerina and I currently work as a house manager for two theaters in New Orleans. And I would say my earliest memory of Nutcracker, well, I have an older sister. She's 5 years older than me. And so basically, there's not been a time in my life where I didn't know about Nutcracker. And I would say my earliest memory would be attending one of the dress rehearsals for one of the years she was in it. I wasn't old enough to be in it yet, but I remember seeing the battle scene and thinking that was the coolest thing ever. So that was when I was little bitty.
How about you, Vito?
Hey, Anthony Vito. I'm a production operations manager for the University of South Florida here in Tampa. Lighting designer, podcast producer. I've worked on a ton of Nutcrackers and what we do, and just came off of one and about to load in another. Um, so I have a lot of experience seeing a lot of different types. My earliest memory is definitely seeing a production while it was a school trip to a hall. Never seen a ballet production, never seen dance at this time, probably in high school, and became enamored. At first, was like, "Oh, great, it's a dance show." I wasn't into it at the time, and then you see a bunch of mice are, pulling cheese from one another, and cannons going off, and going like, "This is freaking cool, man!" And that was my first experience, and fell in love ever since.
And Gary, or other Gary, as you are labeled. How about you? What?
Um, I think like a lot of people, I think my first experience with Nutcracker was PBS,
Mhm.
and because it's a wonderful way to do a celebration at the end of the year, show arts, and I was like 7, 8 years old, real young,
Mhm.
and it was just a very, very bare bones production. Black stage, almost no scenery, just like there was like a
Mhm.
tree at one point. It was just one of those to really kind of focus on the performance and the dancing.
Mhm.
And a lot like Anthony there, at first I was just like, why isn't anybody like kicking anybody? I was 7. What do I know? And then you watch it, and like he says, then you get to all the stuff with the Mouse King and the fight and this, and it grabs you.
Mhm. Well, my first experience with the Nutcracker was I was very little. I would
Hmm.
probably say probably about 2, maybe 3. It was before I actually ever saw my first Broadway show. And we I did ballet when I was small up through like preteens until my company bankrupted itself, and that's a story for another day.
Mm.
But basically, we had our own production. Like so many people know the Balashine production of the Nutcracker, but um, the company I was taking lessons from, and the company I grew up with, they had their own production, original choreography, and um, beautiful sets and costumes. And I just thought, like, I just remember the amazement. And then at that same time, my first experience with it on film was, and I'm gonna butcher his name because I've never been able to say it. Um, uh, Where the Wild Things Are. Illustrator. You can see some of his artwork from it in the back. He worked with the Pacific Northwest Ballet to do the Nutcracker, which was filmed later called Nutcracker, the motion picture, and that's the first time I ever saw it on screen, and it's my favorite ever since. So, all right. Well, Gary, did you want to take the next question, or you want me to?
Sure. And just for everybody, I did come in late because my internet is being a pain and Facebook is being a right pain today as well.
Mhm.
Along with this lovely person right here, I help organize and run these chicanery. So, but I'll go ahead and we'll start counterclockwise. Anthony, so you've mentioned before that you've put on the Nutcracker. You've put it on a few times. Um, so what's that experience like, starting with you, of putting on the show, performing the show, trying to wrangle all these mice and dancers together?
You're muted.
When
There
you
we go.
use the keyboard mute and not the actual mute, then you don't see that you're muted. Thank you so much. Not much of a technical savvy fella here.
That's what I was gonna
Um,
say. The tech guy.
the keyboard mute, it's a curse. Yeah, so our venue invites local studios to come and do their shows at our university when we're not in academic programming. So for about 10 years, we've done at least three, or I've done at least three a year, three different companies,
Mhm.
a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different dancers, technical aspects, different ways to put it on. So it's always been fascinating to me how the Nutcracker, every production, you're going off of a basic story, but you can
Mhm.
adjust that story based on what the book is and based on what the music is. And everyone doesn't have to be just straight up, we're going to do it the Balanchine classical way.
Mhm.
So, uh, how you kind of make it all work together is just kind of see what see what the dancers are providing you, what the costumes are, what the sets are, and then each individual production can be slightly different.
Mhm.
So it's I always find it fascinating with this particular show how everybody always wants to see it annually, and you can't really get that magic elsewhere in any other production. But everybody wants to see that tree grow. Everybody wants to
Mhm.
see the magic of what Drosselmeyer can bring you, and everyone wants to see the wonder that Clara has, and just to see how you get to all your different locations. So it's all about just kind of creating that magic from our end on a production standpoint, how you can make that fresh for the audience. So they all go, wow, that's so cool. Or how do you do this? Or how do you make it snow? Or all this magic that
Mhm.
happened, the cannon blast, the fog. It's so neat. And then you see the dancing, and it's like, not just, hey, I'm seeing, either kids performing or professionals performing, but they're all performing together cohesively. So that's kind of what I kind of love about putting on a production of this particular show.
Definitely.
How about you, Jay?
So I grew up doing ballet, but the studio I was at, we didn't do a Nutcracker. So
Mm,
I never performed in a Nutcracker.
Mhm.
However, I work at a local theater that has multiple dance schools that come in and put on Nutcrackers. So I've stage managed, stage crewed multiple Nutcrackers with those. And then the dance studio I teach at does Nutcracker swings, where
mm,
we alter the story a little bit, like you were talking about. And it's set
Mhm.
in the 1940s with a soldier coming home from war, and he's who the cavalier. It's tweaked a little bit.
mm,
Um,
Mhm.
and like Clara actually turns into the Sugar Plum Fairy
Mhm.
instead of just being there with the fairy. Yeah, so it's a very different twist. We use the jazz versions of some of the songs, and it's really fun to both work the traditional ones and then be also a part of this tweaked version.
Definitely. How
okay.
about you, Rachel? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm so used to moderating.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Are you calling on Rachel next or me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay,
Rachel, you're up.
me. Oh, timing. Oh, this is what happens when you retire from dancing. You forget how to do timing.
And a
um,
1 and a 2.
5, 6, 7, 8. I would say I did Nutcracker from 1993 to 2005. So whoever wants to do the math on that,
Oh wow.
that was like a rite of passage in my hometown. When for every little girl that did ballet, you had to wait until you were the certain age to be in Nutcracker. It wasn't, we're just going to put everybody in. You had to be like 6 or 7. So once you were 6 or 7, you're like, I can be in Nutcracker now. Yay! This is great. And I would say for the most part, I have a lot of I always enjoy listening to the music even now because it brings back a lot of really good memories for me and doing all the different parts over the years. So it always brings out the nostalgia in me. So lots of fun, lots of good memories.
Yeah, that music is iconic. You
Yes.
can't go like a day in the Christmas season without hearing that da 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 dun, 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 dun. I mean, you just can't escape it. So it's good that it's good because there are other songs not so.
I think everybody knows at least one piece of music from Nutcracker, whether they realize it or not, whether it's Sugar Plum or Flowers or Russian.
I think that's the big one. You hear commercials and go like, "Oh, I've heard the Russian song. I didn't realize that was from the Nutcracker." So I always like to look out in the audience and see who has that aha moment of like, "Oh, that was in that Target commercial."
I feel like I need to go get some toilet paper. What's going on?
Or like how they use Sugar Plum in the iconic M&M's commercial.
But it is one of those shows that is synonymous with the season, and we have a lot of different places that we'll put it on because of that. It's like, you can't, you will not find a theater group that isn't putting on some version of Nutcracker or Christmas Carol or, it's almost inescapable. So having
He didn't ask me.
Okay, Sarah.
Rude. How rude.
How rude. Yes. So, Sarah, have you performed in the Nutcracker?
I actually have not. My ballet company, we were a professional ballet company that kind of trained from a young age, and then you joined what was called junior company. And I apologize if you hear meowing. My cat has decided to sing the song of her people, so
It's going after all those mice.
she hears it definitely. Anyway, junior company, right as my ballet company was closing, was when I was starting to become old enough for junior company, which was around the 12, 13-year old age. They never put on productions with very young kids. Even the Nutcracker was considered to be something of a professional production. We would always have recitals, but annual recitals, but we would never do Nutcracker. That being said, I have helped some with the costuming on Nutcracker. When I was a nanny back in college, one of my kids was in a production that was kind of just like a big recital because there was a lot of costumes and a lot of little tiny flower crowns that had to be made and all that. And then there was the big debate on who was going to be the ballerina girl. I remember that and lots of stage moms and being like, I am not going to ever be one of those. Um, that's funny though, Jay. I wanted to say that your anecdote about Clara turning into the sugar plum fairy. Um, we did not have a sugar plum fairy in mind, and neither did the one from the original one. They don't perform it anymore, unfortunately. But the one from nor Northeast, the Pacific Ballet, the Maurice Sendak one, Clara performs the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. So I think that's interesting because I've never experienced anybody else who did that. So I think that's interesting.
I want to say the Baryshnikov version did that as well. They had it where Kelsey Kirkland was both Clara and Sugar Plum. I always
Oh,
thought that
really?
was so weird.
Wow, that's
Yeah, it's
cool.
almost I've seen a couple of that where it's almost like she grows up going like there's like a time shift or time, I don't know the lore standpoint on it, but then she grows up and then dances with the Cavalier as Sugar Plum, and sometimes the Cavalier is kind of a amalgamation of what the Nutcracker is, and it's like Drosselmeyer giving her and his hand away and part of her dream sequence. But yeah, that but see very different versions of it, and also kind of gives a stronger dancer another opportunity to dance as well, especially if you do use someone younger for Clara.
Right.
We do, there's a mirror, and so she and Sugar Plum mirror each other through the mirror and then step through the mirror and switch places and become each other.
Oh,
That's
that's
how we
fascinating.
make that swap
That's
happen.
I want to
okay.
see
That's
this
cool.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Road
definitely.
trip.
Is that
Yeah, I
Atlanta?
now I want to see that one, Jay. You might just
It was
have to.
before Thanksgiving.
Okay,
It'll be this
I was gonna
year.
say you might just
We
have to
already
invite
did
us
it.
all next year.
I'll invite you next year,
Okay.
Yay.
or I'll send you the DVD link. I've got
Well,
Okay.
that's even better. We'll do a virtual watch party.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Yeah,
Pro shot.
that's right. This is why I'm always firmly in favor of recording some pro shots. All right, you want to take the next question, Sarah?
Sure. So kind of along that same line, we were just talking about the characters. Which character or scene or moment in the Nutcracker resonates with you the most, and why? And Rachel, we're gonna pick on you first.
Okay. Back when I was doing Nutcracker, I would say whatever role I was dancing that year, that would have been what resonated with me. But now looking back, it's weird because I was just a random mouse, but I always loved the Mouse King. I think Mouse King is one of everybody's favorite characters just because you think of ballet, you think of tutus, you think of princesses, you think of fluffiness. You don't think of giant mouse, and here's a giant mouse on stage. And some
Definitely.
versions, the Mouse King has one head. Some versions, he's got 7 heads. The last production I was in, he had 7 heads. That was pretty cool. But it's just that's where the story really picks up, is when here comes the Mouse King. Things are finally moving, especially after Party Scene, which, having been in Party Scene many times, goes on forever. So bring on the Mouse King.
Yep.
Lots of. Did you do the line dancing like the
Oh,
like the
yes.
kid? Oh yeah. Okay.
One of those things that whether you're watching it or you're in it, Party Scene just goes on way too long. This is a test of patience. Bring on the mice.
Well, that being said, I do want to say we always welcome and encourage comments. I see a few people are watching us, so we would love if you would answer the questions in the comments as well, if you feel like it. That being said, Gary, because I haven't picked on you first or second, how about you? What character, scene, or moment from the Nutcracker resonates the most with you?
I'm going to copy off of Rachel's test answers and say, yeah, it's for me, it's the Rat King, because I remember watching it. Like I said, I was watching as a kid, and it's like, oh yeah, it's this long Christmas party and whatever, and I'm just like, I don't remember. I remember I was fascinated enough that I didn't stop watching, but I kept waiting for something to happen. And then the Rat King shows up, and it's like, oh, okay, now we got a story. Now we got something going on. And I do like the way that you can play with that, and the way you can have like the multiple, like, okay, is he going to have an army of rats with him, or is he just going to be, the king rat and be the threat all to himself? And I just like, for me, he's the one that puts motion into the play and into the performance. Nothing that, not that there's anything wrong with a nice, quiet Christmas celebration, whatever, but a little conflict helps.
Definitely. How about you, Vito? You've seen lots of them, so how about you? What's your favorite scene, character, or moment?
Man, I really love a favorite moment that always gets me is just kind of the end, like the very end. Clara wakes up, Drosselmeyer kind of like arises her. She sees the Nutcracker and everything that happened throughout the entire show, like him rescuing her, or it's like him helping bringing her to the land through winter, through the land of sweets, celebrating with everybody, and she sees this. It's a dream, clearly, but this dream, this brought so much joy to her in this dream. And every production is a little different, but there always just seems to be one point of her dancing by herself with the Nutcracker as the curtain comes down and before we do bows or we black out, whatever. To me, that always hits me, like at the end, it's just like the bum 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 bum, like the fortissimo at the end there. It's just, I think that's brilliant. It's really fun. Kind of brings like that childhood joy of like this toy or this thing brought me joy, and I enjoyed this as a gift. Favorite character, I want like really wackadoodle Drosselmeyer. Like there's somewhere he's like, oh, he's like crazy, he's like the fun, like he's like an uncle, he's super serious, and some is just like, is he Doc Brown from Back to the Future? That was my favorite character. I'm just like, man, is he a wizard, or is he just like got a lot of just weird sleight of hand? Is he rolling 20 on all of his performance checks? That's the D&D people out there. That is my favorite character, and it doesn't matter throughout the whole show, but it's like that is my favorite. If you can get the Drosselmeyer, that's like that, because a too serious Drosselmeyer, I understand that's part of it as well, but like that's not as fun as just like wacky uncle.
Definitely. How about you, Jay?
So I love the mice, don't get me wrong. I love the battle scene, but my favorite are Russian or Trepak, depending on what you want to call it, or Arabian or coffee, depending on those. Those are what I wait for. The athleticism and seeing what different groups make of those two dances, depending on who they have and the skill levels and everything. That's what I look forward to in every production.
For me, if we're gonna go with Balashine, I really love the Harlequin dolls. Those, I think they're like, I always love the costumes, no matter like, I just think that they're really beautiful. But I think for me, it's the Waltz of the Flowers is probably my favorite scene. Just I think it's always so beautiful. So, um, Gary, I think you're next.
All right. So we've talked about all the different productions that we've seen or been lucky enough to be part of. So I'm going to start with Jay this time. Jay, what particular version of Nutcracker that you've either been in or just watched is one that really stuck with you as being either unique or like the one that just gripped you the most? And was it like a traditional performance or one where they played with it?
I love the ones where they play with it. I love Urban Nutcracker. I love our version of Nutcracker Swings. I love the hip hop Nutcracker. I love when they play with it and take it in different directions and try different things. I'm waiting for one that's like set on a spaceship. I love it. I love it.
Nutcracker in space.
Yes. Yes.
Some space
It could be
Nutcracker.
so fantastic.
Wait, hold on. Anson Mount, are you listening?
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes.
Star Trek Nutcracker. There you go.
Rachel
We can
said
do it.
Subspace Nutcracker.
Oh,
I
There
want
we go.
production credit.
There you go. Well, Rachel, since you
It
threw
could
your
be
hat in the ring there,
fantastic.
what's your answer?
Oh, wait, who's turn? Me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, as Jay had just mentioned it, this is actually one that I just saw a few weeks ago because of my theater job, and it was the hip hop Nutcracker. And I went into it not knowing. I mean, obviously, I was like, okay, this is going to be Nutcracker done hip hop style. That's literally all I knew about it. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I'm like, oh, they're using the original score. This is different. This is working. I like this. This is great. And I was like, I wanted to see how they handle Act 2, because I was like, first act is mainly story based, so the second act is really where you shine, all your dancing shines. And I just stood in there in the seating area the entire time, just watching Act 2. Just wow, look what they're doing! Look at this! You really can make a new twist on an old classic, an old chestnut, as it were. So I would put forth Hip Hop Nutcracker. Yes, I said that.
How about you, Sarah?
Oh, well, I don't know if it sticks with me for being particularly amazing, but the one that sticks with me as particularly surprising is definitely, I think it was a 1993 version with Macaulay Culkin. That was
Mm.
probably the one that just and it is Balashine, okay, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen the New York Ballet perform it, but I mean they still have the same costumes from it, and everything. I mean, the sets are the same, better dancing. But that one's probably the one that sticks the most with me. Other than that, I'm gonna sound like a broken record and say the Maurice Sendak version is the other one that sticks the most with me. And it's just because it is so out there and so different. So
Hmm. How about you, Anthony?
So like when it comes to like the professional stuff, I just still love to go see a classical one. I will say as just a call out, there was a modern take on that I saw a group did
mhm,
that utilizes the entire Duke Ellington suite, so it's all jazz.
Mhm.
But they did it for Thanksgiving. They kind of turned it up on its head, and it was like the whole concept was it was the night before Thanksgiving, and Black Friday was involved. Instead of mice, it was squirrels, and it was a lot of fun. Like just kind of
mhm,
going through it, making it jazzy, and making it kind of interesting in that realm. And they marketed it that way too, so it was kind of neat. It was kind of a group that did a Nutcracker, but also did this one. That was kind of more on the Thanksgiving side. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea to use the jazzy one. But I know you guys were talking about some of your Nutcrackers involve either hip hop elements or jazzy elements, and just like do something slightly different. I think you don't have to take away all of it or do something completely different, but some of those just seem very interesting to a modern audience as well to kind of change things up.
I just thought of one actually that also, and I didn't think of it in context of Nutcracker. So, but kind of to play off of our last holiday panel that we did last year, uh, in the current Christmas spectacular for the Rockettes, they do the Nutcracker, but it's
Hmm.
all bears.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And it is just like they're in full like furry costume bear
Oh my
suits.
goodness.
And there's one bear in particular. She's the like sugar plum fairy bear. And if you ever have a chance to see her perform, no matter who's in the costume, it is hilarious. The last one I saw it, she was really hamming it up. Like she's like the typical like spotlight snob.
Mm.
And like pushing other characters away and like flirting with different ones and just hilarious. So that one, a lot of fun. Not just the Nutcracker by any means, but that one sticks out to me as well.
Were they kicking
Hmm.
in? Were they doing the like the kick line in the bear costume?
No, I don't even know if it's a Rockette that's in it because
Oh, okay.
the Rockettes, they do lots of they have lots of chorus members in addition to the actual Rockettes. I It might be, but I have a feeling it's one of the chorus members who is in the bear costume.
Okay, because I had an amazing like vision of that, and I needed to see it. Kickline Bears,
Hmm. All
I
right.
love theater.
I
right?
do too.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, Katrina answered it. Rockettes have a separate dancing ensemble.
Oh,
So,
okay.
There we go.
Okay.
all right. Well, I know not all of us are performers. But I would want to know if you could perform any role in the Nutcracker. Didn't matter. Um, it doesn't matter whether it's from a specific version of the show or even like gender doesn't matter. If you could perform any role, what would that be? And Gary, I'm gonna pick on you.
Oh, yeah. I hate to be the basic answer, but it's the uncle. I mean, you can have so much fun with that role, like Anthony was talking about. Now I really want to see Chris Lloyd as as the uncle. I really want someone, and I would. That's kind of the direction I would want to roll with it. I was like, let me be
Mhm.
wacky as possible.
So Drosselmeyer.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How about you, Jay? Any role?
Mother Ginger.
Okay.
I want
Oh
to be Mother
yeah.
Ginger up there, hamming it up with the big
Mhm.
skirt, and yeah.
Mm, Vito.
Oh man, those are those are my top two. Yeah, because I've seen some fun Mother Gingers where it's just like someone in, doing like
Hmm.
essentially a drag portion of it, while not trying
Mhm.
to make the ginger upstage ginger snaps. But I mean, Gary's right. I would love to be just crazy wacky Uncle Drosselmeyer with no dancing. Some Drosselmeyers
Father,
dance.
Godfather Josselmeyer. It's not an
Godfather,
uncle. Sorry.
Godfather. Sorry, I don't know
Sorry,
why I always
Tom.
think I just kind of use that as just like
Mhm.
basic figure. But yeah, I just think that would be a lot of fun. Just be like, I'm doing magic, and here's my scepter, and now we're gonna fight some rats, and now here the cool moment is when you're doing the whole thing where it's like, or we're gonna make the tree grow, and here it is, and on that giant moment in the music, it's like the tree grows, like that's such a cool moment, and then all of a sudden here's the battle. Our third, just
Mm.
because another character we haven't brought up yet, the Rat King, especially if the Rat King's in full costume, like a full
Mm.
outfit.
Mhm.
That's fun. Rat King just has a lot of dancing involved, and I just can't. That's not me. But that would also be fun. Just like the Rat King gets fooled so easy. There's a show out there where the Rat King wins. I want to see that show.
He's a Klingon, Vito.
Yes.
That's when he wins.
Yep.
Um, Rachel, how about you?
I
You've
think
performed it multiple times, so
I
you're.
know. I'm gonna say the one role that I never got to do, and I will regret this for the rest of my life that I never got to dance it. That would be, even though it's one dance out of the whole thing, that would be the Dewdrop Fairy, which in some
Mm.
productions
Mm.
she's the soloist for Waltz of the Flowers. I
Mhm.
absolutely, the last production I was in, I knew that choreography by heart. I loved the
Mhm.
costume. I loved everything she did, but I never got to dance that part. And if I could do it one more time, I would be Dewdrop.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, no, it's the sparkly
Yes.
costumes for me because Dewdrop is always very sparkly and it's beautiful.
And Waltz of the
So.
Flowers is a marathon.
Mm.
That goes a
It
long
is.
time. And sometimes Dewdrop has a lot of choreography.
Mhm.
When I did flowers, I was in the flower corps, and
Mhm.
there was only one moment in the entire dance where I got to go off stage. It was like
Mhm.
literally nonstop. That is, so marathon is a very good word for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Definitely. If I could move that way, I think for me it would be coffee. I love coffee. I love the every time they do like the costume concept, no matter which one I see, it's always so beautiful. For me, it's a lot of the time it's the costumes that get me on the roles.
Yeah.
When I was a little girl, of course I wanted to be Clara. But I would say now if I could do it, it would be definitely be coffee.
Those costumes are generally gorgeous, especially if you do the Arabian version of it, and it's such like a change in what you've been seeing for the
Hmm.
most
Hmm.
part.
Hmm.
The whole second act's great because like each country represents a different style of dance in some instances,
Mm.
different
Hmm.
costumes, different. So it's like seeing all of that such a cool change. That's part of why like Nutcracker is great because you can represent different dancers with different dances in that, and like Arabian Coffee is another good one of just like sometimes just magnificent to see all the different it's choreography. Sometimes it's poses. It's like
Hmm.
different movements that can happen in a classical ballet essentially.
Hmm. Definitely.
Okay. So we talked a lot about the characters. We touched briefly on the music, so I kind of want to tag back to that a little bit. Um, is there a particular piece from the show that is your favorite or that it really speaks to you, the part that you think is like the heart of the show maybe, or it doesn't even have to be the heart of the show, it's just your favorite. Sometimes you don't like, sometimes you like something that's like a little off to the side. So how about you, Sarah?
Well, I kind of already answered this
Hmm.
once, but it is the dance of the waltz of the flowers for me.
Hmm.
It is a marathon, just as Vito said. It is absolutely a marathon. But I just think that it is such a gorgeous piece of number one, the music. It's the compositionally. It's beautiful. The other thing. other one that I really like is the party scene because I think it's so it harkens back actually to my childhood. I when used to go to my grandmother's on Christmas Eve, and like having seen coming out and going through her door and seeing all the presents there, and like it just it reminds me of that with the big tree and all the lights and the tinsel. So for me, that's it. We were three people, so I can't say that I fought my little brother over anything, but in that case, but it just it always it feels like Christmas to me because that is what my Christmas felt like. So I think between, other than the waltz of the flowers, it would definitely be the party scene for me.
How about you, Rachel?
Oh boy. You might as well ask me which kidney would I like removed. That would be an easier thing to
Lefty. Always go with
okay.
lefty.
All right. Get the knife out after this is done. Oh gosh. Oh, there were so many parts.
Rachel, they want you to dance.
Do they now? Okay. Well,
Thank you, Mr. Potato Chip.
I will clear out the space and I'll break out the point shoes. I got them around here somewhere.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh. But I think off the top of my head, I'll say what I'll take from Sarah two different answers. I always love hearing Arabian because that I did get to do the Arabian solo one year and I absolutely love doing that so much. And I will say, I was just thinking about this and also there's one part in Flowers towards the very end. It's the da 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 da. I could do the whole thing, but we won't. That I would always, when we were in the middle of doing that on stage, I would just get so happy hearing that. So that was my happy place in Flowers. So that just even now I get happy hearing that part.
Definitely.
And how about you, Anthony?
I think just Sugar Plum's so iconic. I think like Nutcracker, essentially that, and just like it feels so Tchaikovsky too. Like this whole I say musical, no, that would be fun though. This whole ballet, just like the music is so Tchaikovsky, but like going through all the different countries, it's so different. But going back to like Sugar Plum, and in most versions, this is your grand pas de deux, your best two dancers, the Cavalier, the Sugar Plum Fairy, and that is a marathon in and of itself. And yes, Sugar Plum by itself, and then you do Coda, and that's like incredible to watch that as a viewer. And I was trying to encourage people. It's like you're allowed to clap for them doing all of these spins. It's incredible. But Sugar Plum I just feel like just from a musical standpoint, everyone can recognize those first two bars, and you don't even realize it's from the Nutcracker. It can be some guy, in a football game, all of a sudden you hear that in one of the ad reads and go like, oh my gosh, that's Nutcracker. It's like that's so iconic to me, and I just love that whole segment, that whole section. So powerful and so fun to watch in a lot of different versions. So that would be my guess.
Yeah. Well, you stole my answer, so we'll go ahead and skip to Jay.
Trepak or Russian. The power and the energy that music has. After you've been sitting in this gorgeous ballet and everything's so graceful, and then boom,
Boom.
it just comes at you. It grabs you. It's great.
And everybody's clapping. When you get the whole theater clapping, not on time. It's fine though.
Yeah, so never on time.
But they love it.
I think that's anything, even if they're doing it not in the Nutcracker, nobody's ever on time when they're clapping. But it's the fun that counts.
Yeah.
It's nice they try.
Yep.
Yes.
Get a minute.
So one of the things I wanted to ask was, and we've talked about alternative Nutcrackers, but I want you guys to think of something that you haven't seen before. So if you could experience the Nutcracker in a completely different way, how would you want it to see it reimagined? And Rachel, you're our classic Nutcracker gal, so I'm gonna pick on you first.
Come at me, bro. I think I'm going to go with what we were saying earlier, just because now my brain is stuck on that I actually want to see that. The whole idea of subspace Nutcracker Nutcracker on a spaceship, futuristic Nutcracker. You could have so much fun with the costumes, and you could stick to the original music, but you could do so much with it. So let's go with that.
Okay. Okay.
And like, I don't want to piggyback back off this because I don't want to just hijack this question. But I was thinking about when you said that, it's like, I know the whole concept is you do the battle and then all of a sudden you transition to winter. What if you just transition? You go on a starship and now you're in space. Like you can just do that, and then each planet is a different land of instead of land of sweets, it's like the galaxy of sweets or whatever. I don't know. You got my inspiration going there.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So when you put this show together and run it next year, you make sure you get us all tickets, right?
I got to have other people on board, I guess.
How about you, Jay?
I want an immersive Nutcracker. I want to be at the party. I want to be in the snow. I want to be in the middle of the battle. I want it to be happening around me and be right there in it. I don't know how you would do that safely.
Oh, I think you could though. I think it would be amazing experience though, because this was going to be my answer actually. It's the idea like you could have like and you could almost play it as like you wander in and out. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be like super structured or things like that. Like you could have them wandering in the forest or you could have them like go to the land of the sweets, and you could have like the different rooms be the different
Like a haunted house,
dances.
but for Christmas.
Exactly. Like,
Christmas spirit.
Candy smells piped in, like
right.
chocolate. You smell
A-
peppermint.
And you could even like get into the food aspect of it. Like you could make it like a multi-sensory by having not only the smells and the look of it, but also have hot chocolate, have coffee or whatever. And you could play with the characters. They wouldn't have to talk, in my opinion. You could have them talk, but you could have them talk to you through dance. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things about the Nutcracker and ballet in general is they really speak to you, whether or not there's a narrator or not. I've seen it both ways. I've seen where the narrator tells the story of the Nutcracker, but you can see what the characters are thinking, and that is something that you do in ballet in general. So I think that that would be a beautiful idea. And I'm sorry I hijacked your answer, Jay.
Fine.
Kevin Cafferty somewhere out there is going, yes.
Yes, that's what I was just thinking, Kevin. All about the immersive theater.
Yes.
Vito, did you have anything else you wanted? Any other ideas?
Man, I think you hit out like all the different fun answers there, because in space was kind of vaguely my idea, but then Rachel kind of said it and then ran with it, and then that kind of got the inspiration flowing. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Something more kind of inserted. There was a production in London of this unrelated Guys and Dolls that did something similar, where you're standing amongst the production and you were being part of the crowd and being part of it, and that seemed interesting in a concept of like, okay, how can you do this for dance? I'm not sure that you could easily, but that would be a really fun, fascinating way to feel like, hey, you're getting a drink and you're part of the party, and then all of a sudden you see the Rat King, and then it's like you got to get away. You're part of this battle. You're one of the soldiers. What's going on? Or you're one of the mice or the dolls or whatever. And I think that would be a fun way to do that. And I immediately went to Kevin. I was like, this is right up his alley.
Absolutely. Calling Kevin.
Yep.
Now I'm thinking of like you get assigned a role as you walk in you're either a mouse or you're a soldier or you're
or you're a toy.
Assign something as you walk in. Ooh.
If you don't want to participate, you could be in the background being like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah.
Yep. You're one of the sweets just
dressed.
watching. Yeah, that'd be fun. A candy cane. I don't know. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
how about you,
and I would actually, now I've thought about this a few times, and my first initial go-to answer, someone has to have done by now, is a steampunk take
Mm.
on the tail, but someone has to have done that by now.
I
And
don't
if
know if they've
not,
done it on
then
stage.
the people are sleeping.
Yeah.
It
But
was the movie, the one that Disney did a few years ago was kind of
Four
steampunk-y.
realms.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
fantasy steampunky type idea, but it
mhm,
wasn't like the ballet. So, um,
yeah.
That was more
But
like
then I
the
was,
story,
hmm?
the
right? The book,
story.
the
No, don't
book.
get me started.
But then I
Don't get
thought
me
that what
started on
would be
that
much
movie.
more interesting to me. Hmm. But then I was thinking, what would probably be much more interesting to me is let's interpret it into different cultural touchstones. Let's do an African theme, all the different nations of Africa, like, and that could be the different worlds. Like, let's
Mm.
interpret it into a different cultural context. What does that look like? That could be
Hmm.
fascinating.
I think it's your turn, Gary.
I
That was
seem to
my
have brought the whole
question.
mood down.
No, you didn't, but you're the next person to ask a
Oh,
question.
okay. Um, so there have been a lot of different interpretations of it, both in multimedia. There's been the live performances, there've been movies, there've been straight movie adaptations.
Mhm.
There's been a host of animated. Some are not great, some are. Um, what do you guys feel? And I'll start with you, Anthony. Feel about it? Does the show interpret to non-theater live performances, or is there a non-theater version that you've seen that you were like, okay, they nail the spirit? Or
Man, I'm really bad because I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that did it. I know there's a lot of different IP out there that did kind of institute a Nutcracker-esque, theme in there. I kind of vaguely remember a Simpsons episode did it.
oh yeah,
You mentioned the Disney movie. I can't think of
Mhm.
anything specific, honestly. Hi Oreo. But it's like it is a book. It was, can't remember the author, but it was all kind of based off another
It was all in
storyline.
German at
Yeah,
first,
Nutcracker
and
and the
then
Mouse King. I
E.T.
remember like my parents on our Christmas tree had a little like tiny book that was all based on just a couple different things. Um, I feel like you could do something with it though if you wanted to create a really large storyline. It's just to me like the music is iconic as much as the dancing is iconic in that realm. So kind of taking one from the other or trying to create anything like that. I can't really think of anything outside. I'm a bad person to start with this question, but yeah, I'm not certain. But yeah, I'd like to see what the rest of the panel thinks.
oh, then how about you, Rachel?
So, as far as like a non-traditional interpretation, that was the question per se. Because I was thinking in my head as soon as he started talking, I was like,
what's the question, Gary?
yeah, please say the question again.
How would you compare watching it live versus any either like a movie or a TV adaptation? And how do you feel about the different adaptations?
I like that there are so many adaptations because for every adaptation that someone you have to assume that's someone's first time seeing it, so it needs to be special and it needs to work. I would say seeing it live is completely different because, again, what I just said, there's somebody who's never seen it before, and it's so much fun to hear all the little kids that have never seen it and they start reacting to the mice and they start reacting to when you do snow and there's snow on stage actually falling from
Mhm.
the wings.
Mhm.
So I would say it can be either way. It's a good experience, but I think seeing it live, there's no comparison.
Hmm. How about you, Sarah?
For me, I mean, I've seen it both ways. I grew up seeing it both ways. I think there's magic in both. And specifically talking about the ballet, we have obviously the one I grew up on, which is the Nutcracker, the motion picture, was a recorded real life ballet. And then I've seen so many different productions of it, including Balusheen's, which was being mostly done with Macaulay Culkin as playing the Nutcracker. Um, and there there's something to be said about seeing it live, but I think for me the expression of the dancers comes through irregardless of which medium you're watching it from, because it's all, again, it's all about the movement, all about the the feeling of it and the joy of it. And I think that comes across sometimes even better when you can get it close up. Now, the other ones that stand out to me, there's been, as you said, good and bad ones. I remember as a kid watching the Care Bear one that they did. I mean, and it still resonates to me to this day. Now, was it a particularly great piece of cinema? Absolutely not. But there again, it brings still part of that magic. But I will say, if you can go afford to see it live, because all of us know seeing live theater and live arts is difficult. But if you can go see it live, because um, again, there is something about seeing something performed live on stage where you get to see other people's reactions that is just so very immersive that that you just miss out on if it is on a TV screen. So
And what are your thoughts on it, Jay?
I also would always rather see it live, but not exactly for the same reason. I am that person who likes to watch the background dancers. I like to
mm,
see not just the soloist. Don't get me wrong, I want to see the soloist, but I also want to see the background. And whenever you watch dance that's on film, even
mhm,
if it's made for film, there's always a moment where I see something in the background and it goes too fast or it's slightly off screen and I want to know what that was. I want to know what they
mhm,
were doing. So I'd always rather see a dance production live so that I can see
mhm,
the whole picture the whole time.
mhm,
Um, but if it's not a dance production, then I'm okay with animated versions and live
mhm,
versions.
Hmm.
definitely.
It's just dance I like live.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a magic you cannot reproduce that comes from a live stage performance of anything, but especially a piece like this.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Oh my gosh, completely forgot about Fantasia.
Oh
Yeah,
That
yeah.
yeah.
just jumped into my head. Oh
Mhm,
yeah, I forgot there's a
Mhm.
whole Nutcracker segment in Fantasia.
mhm.
That's Ace, by the way. Watch that if you can.
Definitely. Either version, they redid it
Yes.
in 2000. It was Fantasia 2000, and
Mm.
when I
Hmm.
saw it on IMAX, I still remember, and
Ooh.
it was amazing.
When I still danced and we would do performances that were meant for school kids, just like a whole
Mhm,
auditorium of school kids, those were the best because they would get so into it and they would have
mhm,
reactions to everything. Like
Hmm.
some kids would scream when the cannon would go off, and some
mhm,
when here comes flowers, and all the kids are, ooh! It was
mhm.
just that's just the best hearing little kids react to it.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask if there was one thing you could cut out of the Nutcracker, something that maybe particularly drags, or a character you don't like, or something like that, what would you cut out of the Nutcracker? And Rachel, you have opinions, so
I
I'm
do.
totally going to pick on you first.
Oh
I
my.
know exactly where I'm going because, like I mentioned it earlier, whether you're watching it or you're in it, party scene can go on way too long. So I would definitely cut some of party scene out. I'm just like,
Mm,
because if you're in it, even if you're cutting up on stage and the audience can't hear what you're saying, because believe me, there was a lot of talking when we would be doing party scene. We'd be like, look at this, look at this. Oh, he pulled a flask out. He's not supposed to, Drosselmeyer's not supposed to have a flask. What the heck?
no.
But it goes on so long. So I would definitely shorten party scene. Get to the good stuff.
Mhm.
How about you, Vito? What would you cut?
Man, I don't. I I don't want to say cut, but I feel like yeah, I'm with you. Parlor scene does go for a while, and I feel like that's the challenge of each production to figure out how to make that break that up a bit so it doesn't just feel so disjointed in what everyone's doing. I feel the same way about winter, and not just because working flies and you're doing the snowdrop and it's very exhausting that it's very long. Snow just feels like winter just feels so like I get like what the point of it. It feels so long and then we're there for such a small amount of time, but it happens long enough and then it ends and you're like, okay, what happens next? I feel like that can shorten a little bit. Now, granted, I'm on the edge of like, I think you don't need to cut much of anything, but if you were telling me I had to answer this question, which I am, I think winter we can do something. I don't know. It just feels very much like it's a lot of the same moment that happens with no push forward. At least the parlor leads to the battle. This just leads to the end of the act.
Snow is the one that I would cut. I would shorten it. I wouldn't completely cut it out, but I would definitely shorten it. It's too long. It's
But
too long. It's just that scene.
I
It just
also feel
goes.
bad because like the snow queen or snow, yeah, that's a beautiful duet, and the snowflakes are always
But
fun.
they
It
don't
just
always do it as a
yeah,
duet. I
yeah.
prefer if they're gonna do the whole thing that they do it as a duet. But
Mm.
like sometimes I just see the ensemble and it just goes on and on and on. And it's just like I'm not saying it's not beautiful. I'm not saying their costumes aren't beautiful, but it drags. It's the scene, like, if I had a fast forward button, it would be the scene I'd fast forward through because it doesn't mean a lot to the story. Hmm. Anyway, Jay, how about you?
Please don't hate me, but flowers. So long.
Oh!
So
Okay.
long.
Whoa, no I'm kidding.
Boo!
No, but just
Remove her from the stage.
no, I feel like you're in the second act and you're going from here to here to here, and then you're in
Yeah.
flowers for
Okay.
so long.
Mhm.
And the other ones are a
Mm.
little snappier, they're shorter, and so when you hit flowers, you're just like, and we're still here, you know? So yeah, that would be mine. Maybe we could shorten it instead of entirely cutting it. But
It,
yeah,
it doesn't
I know
help
you guys
that
said it was your favorite.
if you
It's
compare
okay.
the flowers music to snow, flowers is very repetitive. Snow at least changes itself up, but flowers is
Mhm.
just like the same
Yes.
thing. Da, 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 da.
Yep.
But it's and then it does the fortissimo. It does the whole oh man, the crescendo right into it at the end. It's cool. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Lilac Fairy and the flowers.
Mhm.
The one thing about winter too is then some productions, then you have like the choir that happens, and it's like, oh okay, oh there's
Mhm.
kids singing now. Where's this in
Mhm.
the lore? I thought it was a blizzard.
Oh, how about you, Gary? Do you have a scene that
uh,
you would cut?
I'm Team Rachel, and definitely shorten that party scene down.
All
Like
right.
she said, just let's get to the nutcracking.
Uh-huh.
Let's move it
Well, that
along.
being said, I think we're just about at time. So that being said, if you had to give one version of the Nutcracker, now it doesn't have to be a ballet, but something somebody could go and watch on their TV, which one would it be? And tell us where we can find you online. And Vito, you're on my bottom, so I'm gonna start with you. We're gonna go back.
Beautiful. I'm Anthony Vito, production operations manager with the University of South Florida here in Tampa, Florida. You can find me at Anthony Vito _ on most social media and Linktree to see some of the other stuff I do,
Mhm,
as well as some of the stuff I've done with Sarah and this beautiful track.
mhm.
Man,
We're not a
again,
track.
this beautiful unofficial track.
Yes.
Darn it. Just we'll bleep that in post. Kidding.
It's
Again,
live.
I don't know if it's on you. Darn. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but just one of the original Balanchine performances. I think it's really great to see a nice classical version of it
Mhm,
online. And and it's like right at the Lincoln Center. Just
Mhm.
City Ballet does a great job, and they continue to do a great job as well. If you can see them, but go support your local Nutcracker if you can. Any of your local companies, whether it's at the
Mhm.
Performing Arts Center or any venue that's doing one, because it's a great show regardless, and you helping support live theater is a great time, especially now in this during the holidays.
Mhm. New York Ballet, other than the Macaulay Culkin one, I know they recorded it during the
Mhm.
pandemic and broadcast it.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's something widely available, but that is pure Balanchine, no
Mhm.
movie magic. So how about you, Jay?
That would be mine too, is go watch the Balanchine, the classic version of it. If you can see a Russian version of it, even
Ooh,
better.
Bolshoi is
ooh,
beautiful. I watched it
great.
in theater a few years
I don't know
ago.
if you can, I don't know how hard it is to find those online, but I haven't seen one all the way through, but I've seen bits and pieces of them shown to me by Russian instructors through the years, and woo, it's magical. It's amazing. You can find me. I'm here in Atlanta. I'm Miss J Sadekis is my Instagram. That's the easiest way to find me.
Hmm. How about you, Rachel?
I'm going to echo what everybody else has been saying. Try to find a copy of the Balanchine version. It's the gold standard for Nutcrackers, at least in the United States. The last production that I did, that was very heavily influenced by Balanchine. My instructor actually was one of Balanchine's company members, so there was a lot of influence there. I would say, also copying off what Jay said, another good version, and I think it's on YouTube for free, is the Bolshoi Ballet version. And that
Hmm.
one is where the Land of Sweets is set inside the Christmas tree. And
Hmm.
that's a lot of fun to
Oh,
watch. So definitely Balanchine and Bolshoi.
Hmm.
And I forgot to put up my Instagram handle, so I will have to put that up another time, because if I tried to spell it out, we'd be here all day.
Well, you can always send me the link and I can always put it in the comments on YouTube.
All right.
Um, for me, this is going to be a surprise to nobody watching this panel. I say go watch the Nutcracker, the motion picture, the Pacific Northwest Ballet's version. If you are a fan of Where the Wild Things Are, you will absolutely recognize Senduk's beautiful art. That one, it is different. I mean, Clara grows up when she goes to the land of the sweets, so that in and of itself is something a little bit different. And she's played by the prima, but in the end, but that would be the one that I would go see. And I would say, and I don't know what the actual movie is called because it's not called Care Bears the Nutcracker, but if you haven't seen it and you want to laugh, go watch the Care Bears movie. And as far as where you can find me online, you can find me at DragonCon Theater and Performing Arts Lovers Unofficial the Facebook group. I am always there. Always posting something. I do theoretically have my own podcast called Fandom and Footlights Podcast. I have not been great at editing those episodes and getting them online because I've been busy doing behind the scenes work for our group, but that will absolutely be coming out hopefully very soon. Other than that, Gary.
You can find me here with her. You can also find me as part of the DragonCon American Sci-Fi Classics track, and you can find me as part of the Good to Be a Geek podcast network, where I co-host and produce a horror podcast called A Podcast of Amontillado.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say go to YouTube, search PBS Nutcracker, and there are two versions I recommend. One is the PBS Great Performances from 1999,
Mhm.
and but the one that I like to go back and rewatch a lot, is because I'm a weirdo, is the Nutcracker Ballet with Mikhail Baryshnikov from 1977. You want to see a top tier performer at the top of their game.
Mhm.
Mhm. Definitely.
It will drop your jaw.
For sure.
I've got some homework. That sounds fantastic.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It is worth saying. I believe it's the Royal Ballet
That was the cutest.
is doing a broadcast on in theaters with Fathom Events. This
Ooh.
Yeah,
I think
Fathom event. Yes.
it's coming. I think it's next week, and it's in theaters for a couple of days. And I would say that's about the closest you're going to get to a live production by seeing it on the big screen. So um, I would encourage you all to do that. But uh,
Hmm.
that being said, um, unless anybody else had anything more to add, I think we are done for the year. We will be starting things back
Support
up.
your local theater.
Exactly. We will be starting back up in January. What that panel will be, we'll figure it out then. Watch out
Hmm.
for information coming out. We will be asking for panelists for the year. And until then, you guys have a wonderful day. And as Gary said, support theater. Bye.
Jazz hands, everybody. Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
Magic.